I was organizing a trip with my in-laws when I decided to call my son, Anthony, to check if he had any plans. "I'm heading to practice," he said. "You guys should go and have fun." "Is this trip a bit odd? Are you sure you're okay, Mom?" Anthony asked. "I'll be fine. I'll get you a souvenir. Just focus on your practice," I reassured him. Anthony, my son, has always had a passion for running marathons, just like me. He even earned a college scholarship for it. Though his school is nearby, he stays in the dorms to avoid the daily commute, only returning home for holidays. I knew he wouldn't be able to join us on this trip, but I asked anyway. As expected, he gave the same answer. "I'm Flora, 46 years old, and I work full-time. My husband, Steve, is 4 years older than me and was once my boss. He's very capable, and I have a lot of respect for him. We were once a happy family, but over the years, our relationship has faced challenges. One major factor has been his parents, particularly his mother, who has never liked me and often mistreated me. In the beginning, Steve defended me since we lived far from his parents and didn't visit often. But when Anthony wanted to attend a high school near my mom's house because of his passion for marathons, things started to shift. I introduced Anthony to the sport, as I've been a marathon runner myself, and I was thrilled to see him share my passion. I persuaded Steve to move closer to the high school Anthony wanted to attend. Steve applied for a transfer at work so we could relocate, and everything worked out well when Anthony later earned a spot at a top university. The day before our trip, Steve said, "Go pick up the rental car tomorrow morning and grab my parents on your way back." I was puzzled. "Why do I have to rent the car? What will you be doing?" "I'm exhausted from work, so I'll sleep until the last moment. Once you've picked up my parents, come back, and I'll drive from there. It's on the way to the resort anyway," Steve explained. I understood his reasoning, but I was also exhausted. Despite both of us working similar hours, I've always been the one to handle all the household chores. It wasn't always like that. We used to share responsibilities equally, but since moving closer to his parents, they've been visiting more often, and that balance shifted. Whenever his mother saw Steve doing housework, she disapproved. "The housework is the wife's job. The breadwinner shouldn't do it. Isn't that right, Flora?" she would say, giving me a sharp look, and I would nod in agreement. Over time, Steve stopped helping with chores altogether. While part of it was his fault, I could tell his mother had a strong influence on him. He even started parroting her views. Though I sometimes contribute financially to our family, it felt like there was no point in addressing it anymore, and I didn't have the energy to fight. Steve's attitude had changed, and his work performance had begun to slip. He often vented his frustrations on me, but I learned that arguing only made things worse, so I decided to accept things as they were. It seemed like the least stressful way to live. I considered divorce occasionally but feared it might hurt Anthony's chances of getting into college, so I set the idea aside. Instead, I began to view my husband more like a pet than a partner, which somehow made me less stressed. In the end, I realized that getting a divorce wasn't worth the effort, and that's where I found myself. I agreed to the trip because it was to a resort I loved, and I knew I could have a good time, even if I ended up on my own. Honestly, I was prepared to do things separately from my in-laws and husband if it came to that. Perhaps they invited me mainly to drive, but since both my husband and father-in-law could drive, I figured it wouldn't be an issue. I joked that our spoiled dog was probably making demands again. When my husband asked me to pick up the rental car, I headed over to my in-laws' house. "Flora, you're late. Is this the car for today? You should have rented a bigger one," my mother-in-law remarked. "Well, it's certainly better than your tiny car," I replied. "The car I usually drive is one I bought myself. Even for commuting to work, I figured I'd be its primary user since I paid for it. We don't travel much, so I thought a smaller car would be sufficient. Plus, I loved its interior and color." My husband would often use it without asking and show it off to his parents. My mother-in-law would complain about the car's size, acting as if I could only afford a small vehicle. I suggested we use my father-in-law's car for the trip, but he didn't want anyone else driving it and didn't want to drive it all himself. So, we rented a car, but I wasn't consulted about it. I later learned that I would have to pick it up and drive while they relaxed in the back seat. It made me want to tell them to arrange their own transport. I was so tired. In the end, although Steve promised to help with driving, he slept the entire trip. My father-in-law refused to drive unless it was his car, leaving me to drive the whole way while Steve napped in the passenger seat. My father-in-law constantly criticized my driving, offering late suggestions and questioning my choices at every traffic light. It just added unnecessary stress. My mother-in-law joined in, criticizing me as well. It was frustrating to be critiqued by someone who couldn't drive herself, especially since my father-in-law had been involved in numerous accidents and should have given up his license. My mother-in-law insisted he was just unlucky and a good driver. I didn't want him driving me around anyway. While I didn't mind driving, I wished he would stop interfering. When we finally reached the resort, Steve woke up, exhausted from the long car ride. My in-laws suggested we relax at the hotel instead of doing any activities outside. I appreciated the chance to unwind, swimming in the pool and exploring the hotel grounds. It was a nice way to spend the day. After a delicious dinner and a spa visit, I returned to our room to find Steve already asleep. I wasn't sure what my in-laws were doing next door, but they were probably asleep too. I went to bed, and when I woke up to the fresh morning air, Steve was still sleeping. With some time before breakfast, I decided to take a walk, but when I returned, I was shocked to find that Steve was gone, and his belongings were missing. I frantically searched the room and tried calling my in-laws next door, but there was no answer. At the front desk, I learned they had already had breakfast an hour earlier than I was told. It seemed they had left without me. I also had to pay for the hotel checkout myself. Was my mother-in-law's offer to cover the stay a lie? With no other options, I paid for both rooms and left the hotel, only to find there was no car waiting for me. As I pondered my next move, my phone rang. It was my mother-in-law. Where are you now?" she asked, laughing. "Just enjoying some quality family time since we're on vacation." I couldn't help but ask, "Why didn't you all just leave together from the start instead of leaving me behind?" "Well, Flora, you did show some interest in joining us, right?" she replied, almost nonchalantly. I recalled mentioning that I wanted to visit this resort while watching TV with my husband. Was that what he remembered? Normally, it would have been sweet if he'd remembered something so trivial, but this time it felt more like a tactic to irritate me. Besides, I had done most of the driving to get here. Why should I be reminded that I came here at the request of my mother-in-law, who didn't drive or contribute financially? I let out a deep sigh, frustrated. "Fine, let's do the sightseeing as a family and head home afterward," I said. "You can go sightseeing too, Flora, but when you're ready to come back. I'm not sure how you'll manage the return trip. You're good at marathons, right? Just run back," my mother-in-law mocked, her laughter only adding to my anger. "Put me on speakerphone if Steve is driving, so he can hear me," I snapped, my frustration boiling over. Soon after, I could hear my husband's voice on the line. "Good morning. You seemed excited to come here. Relax today, but remember we have laundry from the trip to deal with. Make sure it's all done by tomorrow morning," he said cheerfully, but the warmth I had once felt toward him had long since vanished. "Do your own laundry," I shot back. "Hey, that's not the right way to talk. As the breadwinner, I'm advising you to relax today. You should be thanking me," he retorted. "Oh, the breadwinner. Don't worry. This will be the last time we see each other, since you only seem to notice me when you're asleep," I said coldly, making it clear I was serious. "What do you mean?" he asked, clearly confused. "We need to head home today. Laundry and housework are waiting," my husband stated. "Yeah, exactly why I'm not coming back," I said firmly. "What do you mean?" His voice quivered with uncertainty. "I'm filing for divorce," I said, feeling a rush of emotion. "Remember 6 months ago, when you told me you met your soulmate, your childhood friend, and were planning to marry her? The one who moved back to your hometown after her divorce?" I reminded him of that day, a moment I couldn't forget. 6 months ago, I sensed something was off, so I confronted my husband. He confessed he'd reconnected with an old friend, believing she was his true love, and wanted to marry her, leaving me behind. He even handed me pre-filled divorce papers, though I couldn't bring myself to go through with it at the time. I started gathering proof of his infidelity. Was this trip his way of trying to make amends? I recall you saying you were leaving your job. I was worried about you finding a new one and disagreed with your reasons. Didn't I? I continued, reflecting on a past conversation. You were confident you'd land something fast. But now you've only found part-time work. When will you find something more stable? As Steve remained silent while driving, I took the opportunity to express my frustration. I've been thinking of you as a dog to deal with the stress. But I realized I might as well just get a real one. I said firmly. So I'm filing for divorce. Enjoy your family vacation. My in-laws were stunned, and my husband tried to say something, but I ended the call without hesitation. I chose to enjoy the sightseeing before heading home, and I explained the situation to my son over the phone. His response was simple, I told you so. While expected, it felt oddly lighter than I anticipated, given that he already knew everything. When I returned from the trip, I didn't go back home. Instead, I stored my sons and my belongings in a storage unit, just in case. With only the essentials, I went to a real estate agency. The agent, a woman I'd become friends with and shared a few drinks with, greeted me warmly. She was from my generation, so we hit it off easily. During our drinks, I'd told her about my situation and asked her to keep an eye out for properties. That day, I signed a lease for my new home. It was a relief. And I went to City Hall to submit the divorce papers. The process was smooth. Finally, I returned my ex-husband's many missed calls. Hello, I started, keeping my tone steady. The divorce papers have been accepted. We're now officially strangers. His voice came through, frantic. Are you serious about the divorce? I ended things with her. It's just you now. You didn't like me looking at other women, right? Well, I'm focused on you now. Please come back. No worries. His words only made me sick. What are you talking about? I never tried to please you. And you didn't end things with her, did you? She dumped you because you couldn't hold a job, right? It turned out my ex's mistress knew the real estate agent who helped me find my new place. Small world. She'd vented to the agent about him, calling him her current boyfriend. Apparently, after he quit his job and started working part-time, she saw no future with him and ended the relationship. But a fling is just that. I'll definitely be seeking compensation, the agent said. That's correct. Even though they broke up, he still cheated, and there's proof. Compensation? I already told you we broke up. It's just you now. I sighed. So, now that you're single, you're considering another affair? I don't care what you do, but I'm done being taken advantage of. You didn't even realize your stuff was gone from the house because you never cared. I'm not coming back. So throw away what you don't need. With that, I hung up. Even after this, my ex kept calling, and my former in-laws reached out too, but I had no intention of returning to that house. My ex still hadn't found a job, couldn't afford the rent, and had moved back in with his parents. Meanwhile, my ex-father-in-law kept driving recklessly, recently crashing into a neighbor's fence with my mother-in-law in the car. Thankfully, no one was hurt. But they had no insurance and had to borrow money for repairs. All of this came through in the endless emails from my ex-husband. I couldn't help but find it amusing. I didn't respond, nor did I block the emails. I quietly enjoyed watching his misfortune unfold. After moving into a pet-friendly place, I got a small dog and found I enjoyed caring for it more than I ever did for people. My son, worried about me being alone, started visiting more often on weekends. A nice change from just long holidays. Each day felt more fulfilling. Perhaps this weekend, I'll visit that resort town again. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Stay stunned.